Gen Z just outpaced baby boomers in the workforce, and if you're still managing them like it's 1999, you're already behind. We're seeing higher turnover, lower engagement, and increased friction, not because Gen Z is hard to lead, but because too many leadership models don't align. Their disconnection, it isn't personal, it's generational. And the truth is, Gen Z didn't lower the bar, they moved it. And as most leaders, they haven't caught up with it yet. Now, here's the hard part. If you're seeing delay follow through, shallow communication, or even passive resistance, that's not about work ethic. It's a signal that your leadership approach may need to evolve and may need a little tweaking, right? It's time we stop labeling them as the problem and to start realizing that they're the playbook rewrite we didn't know that we needed. Because the leaders who win in this new workforce climate won't be the ones who manage the hardest. They're going to be the ones who coach the smartest. Now, if you want your Gen Z employees to follow the plan, stay consistent, perform under pressure, and grow into future leaders, you've got to stop managing like a boss and start leading like a football coach. Now, let's break that down. Football coaches, they just don't drop plays into a player's lap and they walk away. They teach the play, they run the drill, they build the muscle memory. Then they step back and trust the player to execute without micromanaging from the sidelines. When the game's over, what happens next? They review the film, they regroup, and they get ready to run it again. Now that's leadership. Now imagine managing your Gen Z team with that same rhythm: clear direction, structured development, room to perform, and permission to fail, and built in follow up that builds people up and it doesn't tear them down. This isn't soft, it's very strategic. It's far more effective than the old school just figure it out approach that we're used to. And that's what's burning out leaders and driving your best people out the door. Now, here's where things really break down. When Gen Z employees hesitate to act, ask more questions than you're used to, or seem overly cautious, it's not a motivational problem. It's a clarity gap. When they resist directives without explanation, that's not entitlement, it's a request for context. They want to understand the bigger picture before they commit. They just need to do it in their way. Now, they're not being difficult, they're honestly just being very discerning. These behaviors aren't obstacles, they're invitations to lead differently. Now, the generation is not fragile, but they're also not wired to respond to command and control leadership. They don't follow direction just because it comes from the top. Status without connection does not earn you their effort. They're not being disrespectful, they're responding to the lack of relationship. They respond to leaders who lead with connection first and direction second. Now, let's talk about what connection looks like. Personal investment before performance expectations. Know what motivates them. Understand their goals. Ask them what they value. Now, when they feel seen as a person, not just as a position, they become more coachable. Now, leadership isn't just setting expectations, it's learning what helps each person meet them. Clarity over commands. Telling them to just do it this way doesn't build buy-in and it builds silence, right? Show them the why. Explain how their tasks fit into the bigger picture. When people understand the mission, they tend to take more ownership of the play. Give them space to contribute. You don't earn their trust by controlling everything. You earn it by making room for their voice. You build a culture where it's okay to ask questions, challenge ideas respectfully, or even fail without fear of embarrassment. That's what makes them stay. And that is what most people are considering psychological safety, right? It's just that place where they can come, they can speak without the fear of being cut off. Now, authentic presence, super important. Just don't show up when things go wrong. Be consistent, follow through, be visible when you're not even needed, right? It tells them that they matter outside of the metrics. Now, respect in tone and timing. Now, this is a big thing. Before giving tough feedback, check if the relationship can hold it, especially in that moment. If you choose the wrong moment, you're going to lose them. So how you say it, when you say it matters, right? Connection ensures your feedback lands as helpful, not harmful. Now let's tackle one of the biggest friction points that Gen Z faces, and that is hustle culture, right? Too many leaders still reward overwork. They define value by who stays the latest, who responds the fastest, or sacrifices the most. But that's not loyalty, that's burnout. Gen Z sees it completely differently. They value balance. They value prioritize. They value their wellness. They value their passion projects, and they set those boundaries around them. It's not because they're lazy, because they're protecting their energy so they can actually perform when it counts. They're not opting out, they're optimizing. And if you try and guilt them into overextending themselves for your approval or for any other reason, they're going to stop showing up or they're just going to leave entirely. Now, here's what else they're changing, they're changing the hiring conversation. Today's candidates don't just want a paycheck, they want a purpose. They want to know your values, they want to see how your culture shows up beyond your website. They want to understand how their work will actually matter. Now, this isn't entitlement. For them, this is clarity. They're saying out loud what previous generations have been afraid to admit. If I'm going to give you my best, I need to believe in what I'm building. And if you can't answer those questions honestly, they're going to walk. So let's talk about that kind of feedback that you can give them. Gen Z may not respond right away. Okay. That does not mean that they're disengaged, it means that they're processing. And they were raised in an environment of asynchronous learning, which means that they listen, they reflect, they research, and then they respond. When they come back, they often bring sharper questions and stronger execution. But if you only give them the space to process in a way that works for them, and then finally, culture. Organizations with strong cultures don't just retain people, they outperform. Culture, it's not a slogan, it's the lived experience your people walk into every day. And Gen Z is paying attention to whether you whether what you say actually matters when you do. If your leadership still runs on rigid controls, outdated values, or surface level perks, they're going to be the first to notice it and the first to leave, right? They're not looking for easy, they're just looking for leadership that works for them. So are you coaching them to win or are you managing them to comply? Because the gap isn't their ambition, it's in your approach. Now, Gen Z, like I said, they're not fragile, right? They're focused. They're not disengaged. They're discerned. They don't need coddling. They need coaching. They need you to stop commanding and start connecting. So I'm going to leave you with this. What would shift for you if you stopped managing Gen Z like employees and start leading them like a football team? And if you want tools to help you speak with clarity to your Gen Z team, grab a copy of my Impact Scripts course. This is absolutely free. This is my gift to you. It is available now at heybrenda.com. And make sure you do that before your next conversation goes sideways.